Hi, I'm Indiana Montes. Today we're going to go and meet Sue Counts. She is one of the founding mothers of Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture, so I'm eager to meet her.
I lived in Maryland, and I worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I had a little farmette up there, and I went through a divorce, and I realized that I needed to relocate, and so I love the mountains, and so I thought, I want to relocate in the mountains. I grew up in the mountains of Virginia, and about 2.5 hours from Boone. And so I started kind of putting feelers out for a job. So I was sitting in my office right outside of Washington, D.C., and the phone rang, and it was the head of the department of the Home Economics Department at ASU. This was in 1981. Jack Beasley was his name. And he said, I understand you're looking for a job. And he said, well, I'm head of the Department of Home Economics at App State in Boone. And we have an interim position here. And so why don't you think about coming and interviewing for it? And so I thought, this sounds good. I scheduled an interview, and then on a Sunday afternoon I went over to Boone, and they gave me an interview, and they called me on Wednesday morning and said I had the job. So I very quickly came back to Boone and found a house, and then went back to Maryland, and I sold my animals, my goats, and did a garage sale or a yard sale, got rid of a bunch of stuff, had friends help me load a big Jartran truck and trailer, and my daughter, who was 16 at the time, drove the car. I drove the Jartran truck, and my 10-year-old, or almost 10-year-old, she was 9 at the time, daughter rode in the passenger seat in the truck with me, and we drove from Maryland to Boone, and I started an interim teaching position in the Home Economics Department that year. So that's how I got to Boone and ASU. 37 years I lived in Boone. I love the people. It was a great place to raise my daughter. Well, I had 2 daughters, but my older daughter went back to live with her father in Maryland. So Heather and I were there. I went to St. Luke's Episcopal Church, and that was great. The people kind of helped me raise Heather, so that was important to me. So it was a good place to be for 37 years. See, I moved there in 81, and I taught at ASU for a year in the Home Economics Department, and then I taught a course, just a part-time position on holistic health and nutrition. And at the same time I was doing that part-time, I had a job at the health department in Avery County. So I, had that job for, from 82 until 87. And then I got a job with the North Carolina Division of Facility Services. And I surveyed intermediate care facilities for the developmentally disabled. So I did that covering 33 western counties of North Carolina. So we had a team of people, different disciplines. We had a pharmacist, we had a social worker, we had a nurse, we had a psychologist, and then I was the dietitian, the nutritionist person. And then a job came open with Extension, Cooperative Extension, North Carolina Cooperative Extension. And then I was able to take on the position of Extension Agent, Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent in Watauga County. So I took that position, and then in a year or less, the county director left, and so I applied for his job and was interviewed and got that position. So then that kind of positioned me to work kind of over and organize the different disciplines in extension. Agriculture, environmental, the family and consumer science, 4-H, horticulture, all of it. I had a barn project, and so this is one of the barns that one of the students from App State went around and took pictures of different barns, and we had a special program at Farm City Banquet. When I first started as County Extension Director in Watauga County, we had an opportunity to do proposals for the Golden Leaf Foundation, because we were working to help the farmers transition from growing tobacco to growing other things or doing other things with their farm. And so in the high country in Watauga County, we worked with the farmers to help them transition from growing tobacco to growing broccoli. And so I was one of the first ones to get a proposal from Golden Leaf Foundation to help our farmers with that. And my focus became more sustainable agriculture, okay? And I realized that there were so many women that had really been in the field of farming, that they would have small farms. Their husbands might have a job outside the farm, but the women were the ones that were really doing the work of being farmers. And so I thought, if we could just, focus on these women, because that kind of brings it all together with, the family and nutrition and having foods available in the community, not having so many shipped in, but growing them ourselves. So that gave me the idea of starting the Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture. So Judy Sharns and I were working on another project that had been funded by Z. Smith Reynolds. And so we were supposed to go down and have a session with them, an interview, kind of update them on how we were doing with mountain keepers. And so on the way down, we were talking about how important it was to work with the women in the mountains, because the women were the ones that were really doing the farming. And so we got so excited on our way down to Winston-Salem to speak with the people at Z. Smith Reynolds, that when we got in to talk with them, we were talking about the women and farming. And so they said, well, why don't you go back and write a proposal? So get a loan from the bank really was not an option. And so we went the route of the Z. Smith Reynolds funding. Diane Price did most of the writing of that first proposal to Z. Smith Reynolds, and we got funded. So Carol was another one that got started. So Diane Price, Carol Coulter, there were several of us that got started in the very beginning. And because Extension does not usually receive grants, we ran the money through App State. So actually that worked out very well because we were working closely with App State. And actually A&T State University in Greensboro They did a lot of workshops that were very helpful to the women who were getting involved with Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture initially. Food security has been an issue for a long time, and it's an especially a big issue right now. But I think that we created something that was needed, and I think we created it because there were people in the mountain counties, women in the mountain counties, who really were hungry for something like this. And so it became, I think, easy to do. And then App State really is an asset. So App State and North Carolina State University and A&T State University could work together to create something like that. So we had excellent speakers, and the women from all these mountain counties came together and learned, and they seemed to be really interested in what could be created and what could be accomplished by working together like that. Oh, I'm so proud of them. I am so proud of them. My goodness, it's remarkable how far they have come.
Yeah. I'm Kelsey Crawford, and I'm the programs coordinator with Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture, which means I manage the King Street Market, the Boone Winter Market, and then also do some work in the food hub.
Because it was an idea that we had, but without the people that followed and working so hard, it never would have gotten where it is now. But I think that the women are doing wonderful. And they have created so many more things now. So I'm very proud of them.
The King Street Market accepts SNAP, EBT, WIC vouchers, and senior vouchers. So basically you'll swipe or give us any of those forms of payment and receive tokens that you can use at any of the markets in Boone, including the food hub. And when you swipe those options of payment, you actually receive double what you pay. So if you swipe $20 on your EBT card, we'll give you $40 to spend at any of the markets.
Food hub and all the other, all the other things that are going on there now, it's remarkable. And Judith Phoenix kind of keeps me updated on what's happening, because I don't get up there very often now. So I've moved from the mountains now, and I live in Kernersville. But I love to garden, and I have some nice garden plots up here near the apartment building. And so I kind of looked at what I'm growing, and I thought, what am I going to do with all this food? So I've been in touch with the Crisis Control Office and people who are in need of food in this area. They come to the Crisis Center, and then I will take my food from my garden there, and it will be distributed to the women and families in our area here. Well, when you get right down to it, you know, with bringing the community together and the women farmers, you know, they come up with the ideas of how to make the whole thing equal in the eyes of, you know, the different people in the community. So you don't want to leave anyone out, and so they are very creative in making that happen. When I was in the beginning, when we did the Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture, we worked with the Hispanic community. And we would bring the women and children from the Hispanic community to Diane Price's farm. And so we would have workshops and work with the women and children there. So that created a lot of equity.
I'm so happy to meet you too.
So after interviewing Sue Counts, I came back to Boone. Well, I can understand her. This is such a beautiful place. I'm in the Mountains, and I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did.